Okay, guys, we are here to talk about Dead Space Remake, but first I have to just tell you, I was listening to the new Breaking Benjamin song, which is called Awaken. I was watching the music video for that. I, I'm shook. They are, really aiming for nostalgia with that, and you know what? I kind of feel like they nailed it. So, just wanted to let you know. Anyway, so we are here for Dead Space Remake, as previously mentioned. When I think of cinematic horror, a few things come to mind. Take the interior of the Nostromo, the eerie desolation of the Arctic outpost in The Thing, or maybe even the really funky carpets in the Overlook Hotel. And then there's Dead Space, specifically for our purposes, the 2023 remake. After just an hour inside the bloody hallways of the USG Ishimura, you're going to realize it's not just a game. It's a masterclass of atmosphere, pacing, and tension. And it might be one of the best examples of a video game putting the capital V in video. This remake does more than polish and add a few extra pixels. It fundamentally reimagines the world, characters, and pacing, creating an experience that makes you feel like the last dude left standing in your own action or horror movie. In this video, I'm breaking down why this game feels more like a horror film than just a traditional video game, and how its attention to sound, camera work, pacing, and environmental storytelling should set it apart as a shining beacon of what a remake of any game should strive to be. In my personal opinion, the setting of a horror story should always be a character in its own right. Atmosphere is so important. If Alien were set in the aisles of Costco, for example, we would be dealing with an entirely different kind of horror story. Maybe instead of the chest burster popping out of a human host, we would have one pregnant ass rotisserie chicken. In this case, the Ishimura feels alive. Lights flickering with institutional uneasiness, blood everywhere, even dripping down from the ceiling at some points. The ship groans and protests around you from the outside pressure of a literal gravitational pull. Making your way through the violence of each new room, you know for a fact that this ship is 100% hostile, and whatever is crawling around in its halls is very happy to turn you inside out. Unlike the original game's chapter-by-chapter structure that unfortunately broke immersion, the remake turns the Ishimura into a seamless, interconnected space. No loading screens, no artificial boundaries, just a sprawling, claustrophobic labyrinth filled with screaming aliens that all kind of look a little too human for comfort. Let's also talk a little bit about camera framing. Dead Space's over-the-shoulder camera is deliberately close, hugging Isaac's shoulder and restricting your vision. It gives you a heightened sense of the closeness of the walls. You get this uncomfortable feeling that there's something in there, something you can't see, but it sure knows where you're at. And this means your periphery is almost completely null and void. All you can see is what's right in front of you, and even then, most of the time, only what's within your flashlight's beam. And what's more, Dead Space Remake eliminates traditional cutscenes. Everything is in engine and the camera never cuts away. Instead of just watching a story happen to someone else, you're piloting the possibly doomed hero. You say shoot, and Isaac unloads an absolute dump truck worth of force energy. And the jump scares from this perspective are even worse. One moment you're minding your business, thinking about your long-distance girlfriend Nicole, and then BAM! Necromorph to the face. Or ass. Or face and ass. Necromorphs aren't really picky, so... And, well, that's you. Bare cheeks to the wind Isaac Clarke, resident fix-it man and future mental patient. And now, if the Ishimura is a character, its voice is its sound design. Every creak, every scramble of flesh and bones in the ventilation system sets you on edge and makes you wish you had eyes in the back of your head. And the silence is weaponized. Moments of stillness are very untrustworthy, and our boy Isaac will let you know as you hear his heart rate literally pick up inside his chest. Add to that the oddity of gurgles and chokes and screams that the necromorphs emit, and you can never be quite sure where the enemy is coming from until they're almost on you. Following heavy encounters, you may find Isaac wheezing and gasping for breath, especially after a little acid to the old faceplate. And all of that's not even mentioning the music, and it's not just music, my friends, it's a score. And if you don't know what I mean by that, look it up, you uncultured swine. Anyway, the score. At some points, it screeches like psycho. At others, it builds tension like you're being stalked through a summer camp by some guy who may or may not want to call you mommy. The music dips and it sweeps, and most of all, it keeps you wound tight and never quite lets you go. And now, next on my list is pacing. Horror thrives on contrast. Quiet, tension-building moments followed by bursts of violence. And this is a game that achieves that and sets a rhythm. Instead of relying on just jump scares, interactions and even reactions feel organic. One moment you walk down a hallway and there's nothing there, but then on a second traversal you find yourself curb stomping a necromorph into the hole with your 6-inch boots. Your super masculine space boots. Right. Anyway. In between that, you slow burn your way down humming elevators and suspiciously quiet corridors. It gives you a lull, allows you to calm down, right before you have to solve some stupid puzzle, or get bit in the ass. Who knows? Of course, we also have to talk about the man himself. In the original game, Isaac was silent. A few grunts here and there, but overall a very disinterested guy considering what was happening around him. But in the remake, he's fully voiced and acted, and this is done so well that he kind of feels like a character you should have an action figure of. He suddenly feels human. He reacts realistically, panicking in the face of danger, but also showing determination, grit, and ingenuity. This is a guy who will not only go to the ends of the galaxy to save you, but he can also fix your garbage disposal. And mow the lawn. And he doesn't expect tips because he earns a living wage. Jokes aside, his relationships with characters like Nicole and Hammond were also rewritten, adding emotional depth that makes the game's what the fuck ending hit twice as hard. I replayed this game recently after having forgotten the second half of the game, and I'm honestly still kind of screwed up over that. You know, make us whole again. But that's the Dead Space remake. Tense, beautiful, terrifying, and tragic. It's a where's my wife game in space, but I'll be damned if it's not an excellent one.